Come here.
Which one of us
Story starts in New York in 2019 during a tennis tournament's final match. The prize for winning this match is $7,200. In the match, we meet two main characters. Teta, who has blonde hair, and his rival Patrick. They are competing against each other for the prize. The match begins with Patrick scoring points confidently, glancing defiantly at a girl in the audience, noticed by Rubio, who also catches her eye. However, the story jumps back several weeks earlier. We learn that Arte and the girl live together, and she has a scar on her knee. Early on, she encourages Rubio to start his physiotherapy sessions, as he has also undergone arm surgeries. During an art session, the girl touches up a promotional poster featuring both of them. Later, she watches a sports program revealing her name as Tashi, who is not only the tennis player's wife, but also his coach. Despite having a successful past, Rubio's present is filled with disappointing results. He refuses to hear more and turns off the TV. In a new match, Arte appears hesitant, and though we don't see the match, we understand from the video they watch at home that he lost. Tashi encourages him to regain confidence, reminding him that he has a chance to bounce back, something she didn't have earlier. Tashi's young daughter interrupts, seeking attention. She spends time with her grandmother, who coaches her, and asks Rubio if he's content with a life of comfort, or if he still wants to continue playing. Tashi convinces Rubio that he needs to start winning again. She suggests he enter a lesser-known tennis tournament called The Challenger to rebuild his confidence. Meanwhile, Patrick faces financial difficulties. Unable to afford a motel room, he flirts with the receptionist but ends up sleeping in his car in a parking lot. At dawn, someone asks Patrick to move his car from a private club's parking lot. Surprisingly, Patrick informs them he's there to compete in the tournament. During registration, he meets a chatty woman who used to be a lineswoman at a youth tournament but now works late nights and is hungry. Patrick's focus is on getting breakfast from kind people who share their food with him. He asks if he can receive his prize money in advance, but the woman explains it depends on his tournament results. During this, a famous player shows Patrick a photo of Blondie, which makes him uncomfortable. Meanwhile, back at the final match, Art starts strong but soon faces setbacks, leading to frustration. The story then flashes back 13 years to a different outcome, where Patrick is Art's teammate, and they celebrate a victory together. They discuss their upcoming final match against each other the next day, and Art jokingly asks Patrick not to beat him too badly. Together, they watch the final of the women's tournament. Patrick mentions he plans to attend a party later to meet Tashi, the talented tennis player they admire in the final. Art is excited to see her, and they both watch her with interest and admiration, recognizing her as a tennis prodigy. At the party, they notice posters of her, realizing she's the face of a major sports brand with a promising career. They watch her dance and are impressed. They approach her, and she recognizes them. They congratulate her on her impressive game, but she's soon called away to take photos with her trophy, while her friends continue to admire her. After the party ends, Tashi's friends greet her, reminding Patrick and Art about their upcoming final. They suggest continuing their conversation, so they head to the beach. There, Tashi shares how tennis is integral to her life, and her hopes of turning professional soon. Before leaving, Patrick and Art ask for her phone number, but she declines, opting to know where they're staying to continue talking. Later, in their room, Patrick and Art wonder if Tashi will actually visit. To their surprise, she shows up. They share drinks and conversation, during which Tashi asks them if it's normal for them to both be interested in the same girl. Then, more directly, she inquires about their relationship, hinting if there's something more between them. The friends deny any romantic involvement, but are encouraged to share a childhood memory. When they were 12, Patrick taught Art a personal skill discreetly. As they run out of beer, Tashi asks them what they'll do next. She sits on the bed, and they eagerly join her. In that moment, she kisses Art, but then switches to Patrick. Encouraged, the three of them continue kissing each other. But then Tashi excuses herself from the game. With eyes closed, the friends continue kissing, carried away by the moment. As Tashi bids farewell, she teases them that whoever wins the final will earn her phone number. In the final, Matrix impresses with his skills, and they notice the receptionist was present while Taz applauds Patrick's performance. Then, we return to 2019, where Rubio struggles in his match. losing the first set and worrying his coach. Flashing back a few days, we see Patrick celebrating his first tournament victory. In the dressing room, Patrick looks at his phone with a cracked screen, checking his Tinder and seeing not just women, but also other recommendations. Suddenly, an alert pops up for a match with Helen as he prepares for his appointment. He notices a large advertisement with Tashi next to his rival. And during the date, he spots Tashi arriving at the hotel, distracting him from his date. Patrick approaches the girl, but she gets upset when she realizes he's on a date. He explains he's just looking for a place to stay, and hopes to avoid seeing her again, which might happen if he reaches the final, a feat he doubts. Knowing his tendency to lose in the second game, feeling conflicted, Patrick nearly leaves, but then remembers the date, and returns to kiss the girl, who plays along despite her surprise. Flashing back to 2006, Patrick tells his friend about the girl ending things with him. His friend presses for details about their relationship, hinting at a more intimate connection. Back in the present final match, Patrick smirks at his rival, but Rubio remains focused on the game. As the match is about to resume in the present, we flash back to 2007. Tashi is training, and Blondie visits her. They have lunch together, and Art expresses surprise that she's still seeing Patrick. Tashi asks if Art has something to tell her about Patrick, and Blondie reveals that Patrick isn't in love with her. This upsets Tashi, and she decides to distance herself from Patrick. In the past, during a game, Patrick and Tashi argue, causing Patrick to storm off. Tashi prepares for her match, only to witness Patrick injure his knee on the court. Rubio comes to her aid, and when Patrick arrives late, she sends him away. In the present, the second set continues, with Patrick disputing a call with the referees, resulting in a warning. Flashing back, Patrick trains with Blondie despite his knee injury, pushing himself harder until he falls, frustrated with his situation. 3 years later, Tashi visits Rubio, as he prepares for another tournament with his coach. They go out to eat, and she compliments his playing. He suggests she join as his coach's assistant, but she asks directly if he still loves her. Rubio is unsure, but by the end of the match, they share a kiss. Returning to 2019, Patrick angrily smashes his racket after losing the second set, tying the match with Art. His outburst earns him another warning from the judge. Now let's go back a week. Patrick meets Tashi at the hotel and asks her to be his coach, believing it would be more rewarding for her to make him a winner than continuing with Rubio. In response, Tashi slaps him, telling him to quit smoking, and suggesting he ask his parents for money instead of living on the edge. She criticizes him for lacking ambition. Patrick retaliates, suggesting Tashi is upset because Art no longer enjoys tennis and only follows her. He hints she fears her career will end with her husband's. Patrick admits he entered the tournament just to provoke her. In the evening before the final, Blondie tells his wife that he doesn't mind losing the match, and mentions his prediction that she wants to retire from tennis. Tashi responds that she doesn't need his approval to retire, but warns him that if he doesn't win against Patrick, she might leave him. Despite their attempts to rekindle their passion, things don't work out. Art asks for a hug, and she responds with a sad, okay. Back at the final match, the third set is tied at 5 games. But let's return to the previous night, where Tashi leaves the room to save Patrick's phone number. The final continues, with Art leading 6-5. However, going back to the previous night, Tashi calls Patrick and goes to pick her up at the hotel, pretending to be a taxi driver. She asks him to let Patrick lose the final, leaving Patrick angry and frustrated. In the heat of the moment, Patrick confronts Tashi, telling her that her actions are unforgivable. They decide to return to the hotel. In the final match, Patrick wins a crucial point, drawing closer to tying the score. Cab shows her disapproval, noticed by her husband. Returning to the previous night, their argument continues on the way to the hotel. Patrick boasts that Tashi still loves him, which deeply offends her. Tashi demands he get out and spits in his face, but moments later, she passionately kisses him. Back at her room, she finds Art missing, but sees him comforting their daughter. Reflecting on their earlier conversation, it's implied there was a more intimate encounter between Tashi and Patrick in his car. Back to the final match. Patrick misses a serve, and is 1 point away from losing. The tension mounts. On his second attempt, despite delays and warnings, Tashi surprises everyone by not responding to the play, allowing Patrick to win the point and gain advantage. Despite Blondie's distraction, Patrick wins the next serve as well, tying the third set 6-6. Blondie serves next, hitting the ball toward Patrick's body. They exchange defiant looks, leading to a tense final rally worthy of a championship. Both players give their all, with the ball moving back and forth in slow motion. Rubio leaps in excitement, accidentally crossing over to Patrick's side, where Patrick embraces him in a hug. The scene ends with Tachi's surprised and happy eyes, marking the conclusion of this dramatic moment.